For Louisiana versus all y'all, Jarrett Roser with Tony Hull, the co-offensive coordinator out of Hawaii, New Orleans guy, played for the Cajuns in college. Was a high school coach in the city for a long time, really helped rebuild Warren Easton after Hurricane Katrina had hurt so many people in the city, obviously in so many ways, but a lot of program building to be done there on the football field and on the high school athletics fields. And then you've just been kind of working your way up, man, college level, and now winding down your first regular season in that role out at Hawaii. What's been up, man? You're out there living in paradise. Big smile for me to see you. Big smile for you as you guys get ready for a bowl game next week. How's things going?
Man, it's going amazing, man. I couldn't ask for anything better. It's been a tremendous experience. It's been something that has grown me as a coach, has grown me as an individual, and I'm just grateful and thankful for this opportunity.
And I mean, you've been out there at such a weird time with everything that's happened this year. It's been a bizarre year for everybody. For you, going into that opportunity at Hawaii, you had been at Kansas for a few years and then transitioned to go join Coach Todd Graham out with the Warriors program. What were some of the things that drew you to that role, and how has that played out in actual reality since you've had a chance to land down there?
Well, the only the only reason why I'm here at the University of Hawaii is because of Coach Graham. He met me a couple of years ago through Mike Norvell. Him and I shared a couple of text messages and a couple of conversations, throughout the years. And when he got the University of Hawaii job, he called me up and he said, "Look, Tony," he said, I have never met an individual like you when it comes to character, when it comes to leadership qualities, when it comes to developing young men, when it comes to building relationships. He's like, the only coaches that I've ever been around that have come close to this is Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn. And when I heard that, I was like, all right, coach is kind of pulling my leg a little bit, but okay, here we go. He was like, "Tony, here's what I want you to do." He was like, "Allow me to develop you to be a head coach." He was like, "Because the guys I just named to you, I really truly believe that you are just as smarter than them. And I think you can be a great leader in this profession, but allow me to develop you to become that." And when I heard that, that was the first time ever in my career where a coach said that he wanted to take me under his wing and develop me. There's always guys always saying that they want to hire you or they want you a part of their staff or what you can bring to their staff. And here's a man who has a long coaching tree of head coaches saying, "Hey, allow me to, develop you and pour into you," and that meant a lot to me. So that's the only reason why I'm here at the University of Hawaii.
Yeah, he's a guy that has been in the coaching profession since not long after we were born, just a few years behind that. You might have been in like first or second grade. I might have been getting ready for kindergarten or something.
Right.
And he's been a head coach at the Division I level in college since you had come back into football and got into coaching at your alma mater, Sarah Reed. And so to hear those sort of things from somebody that has that track record, both in terms of his own career as well as some of those other names you mentioned that have been a part of his staffs that have gone on to big things, had to be kind of incredible at this point for you.
It was. It truly, truly was. It's a blessing. My mom used to always say, "Son, you never know when God is going to bless you. You just need to be ready." And having him come into my life and come into my coaching career and wanting to take this step with me and wanting to develop me has been a true blessing in my life. And I'll forever be grateful.
When you look at some of the things that drew you back from a field in engineering, and when you were a high school coach and then getting into the college level, that was kind of the fun fact is Tony worked for NASA. He's probably the smartest guy in this stadium right now. When you look at the things that brought you back and put you on a sideline or in a coach's box, and the things you learned through those high school years, I guess as an assistant first, and then as a head coach at Easton, and then what you've picked up through these years now, getting that college experience, what are some, I guess, kind of key things that stand out of of what was sort of a spark for you. What are some things you learned in different phases that you've kind of continued to build out that toolkit and kind of learn how to best manage an entire program, really?
I would say the first thing is the ability to think outside of the box. One of the things the main reason why I think I've had so much success wherever I've been is because I've been able to think different from other coaches in the same position that I am. When you're working for NASA, there's that one of the program directors, he used to start the meeting out with something so simple, but something so profound. He used to be like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. He was like, let's not recreate the wheel. Let's just make it better. I used to be like, that doesn't make any sense. But over the years, I go to think about it. And I go, you know what? He's right. Like there's nothing out there that hasn't been thought of already. But there's a bunch of ideas that don't get listened to. So the ability to think out of the box and the ability to create an environment where everyone is heard, where communication is efficient, not a deficiency. Every idea is not automatically shot down. It's planted, it's nurtured, it's developed. And if it doesn't grow, then it's not used. But if it grows, then it turns into something special. A lot of time in our coaching profession, you have all these bright minds, but you have coaches that are so stubborn in leadership roles, they don't listen to the new ideas that young coaches have, that people from outside of coaching may have, and it hinders the football program. But one thing working at NASA, it taught me that you need to listen and hear and nurture every idea that comes from your team. And if it doesn't mature into a plan, then you don't use it. But at least allow it to develop. And I think that's one of the things that hinders leaders when they're trying to build a program. They stifle those great ideas with their stubbornness.
What have been some of the things as you now at the college level, and you mentioned particularly this past year with Coach Graham, where he talked about wanting to really kind of pour into you and groom you to be a guy that can take on that next step of a role that for you ultimately is kind of the dream and the goal is to be a college head coach. What have been some of those things that with that relationship and with that opportunity that you've kind of continued to build upon that foundation?
I think the number one thing is probably the biggest thing I've ever learned since stepping in a college coaching realm is the ability to nurture relationships and develop so you can raise funds for a football program. He's taught me how to go into situations where A, the resources are minimal, or B, you don't have the type of donors or boosters that other larger schools may have, but the ability to develop and nurture relationships with individuals that come along with smaller institutions. I've learned some great fundraising tips from him. I've realized, how to prioritize funding when it comes to putting a program back together that lacked the resources. I think those traits are extremely critical when it comes to trying to build a Division I program, because you can't limit yourself. Another thing he's taught me is that you can't limit yourself on just taking over the big programs with the big budgets. You have to be able to go into the programs that don't have the enormous budgets and still be just as successful.
That's got to remind you quite a bit of some of those early high school years too, just trying to rally everyone around and get everyone kind of heading the same direction in sort of a building process. And it seems like that's an aspect that every step of your career you've kind of found an enjoyment in trying to build something and get everyone on that same page.
Yeah, I think, it's crazy because I've always, throughout my entire life, I've taken the tougher path. I've always taken the path where no one, truly wanted, the less desirable path. I get a great fulfillment out of that. The ability to build something, but not only build it, maintain it. One thing when I went to Warren Easton, everybody knew what Warren Easton was before I got there and we got there. But the true test of what we built at Warren Easton was going to be after I left. What I meant by that is, anybody could come in and build a program to be successful over a short period of time, but you're talking 10, 12, 15 years now where Warren Easton has been dominant, and they've been dominant after I left. So that made me really proud of, okay, Tony, you really built something at Warren Easton, because now it's still dominant after you have left, just as dominant it was when you were there.
Yeah, I'm actually, it's kind of funny the timing. I'm going to be with those guys for yet another Easton and Carr matchup deep in the playoffs. By the time I post this Friday morning, later on Friday night, I'll be at another battle between two of New Orleans' best, and those two teams just keep running into each other, whether it be state championship games the last couple of years or now another semifinal like it was 3 years ago. And it just, those games, talking to a young guy that's a senior there now at Easton, he said he feels like those games, the way that they've gotten, are about as best of a preparation for college games as they could ask for at the high school level.
Yeah, there's another coach that's at another Division I school that I'm not going to talk about. I'm just leaving him there. He coached that Carr back there. He was like, yeah, he always cracked jokes. He always brings up, he's like, what's your record against Carr? And I'm like, 1-0. He's like, what? Yeah. I said, Coach, we always teach our kids and preach to our kids, you're only good as your last game. I said, last time we played Carr, we beat him. As a matter of fact, we didn't beat him. We blew him out. I think it was 40-something or 14. And he laughs, but he gets a kick out of that. He was like, yeah, after you won that game, you got a college job at Kansas. And I was like, hey, when you do great things happen. So that's kind of the joke between us. But those guys hit it on the head, man. In order to be the best, you got to be the best. In order to be successful, you got to be around successful people or beat successful people. And those are two really great successful programs. And, playing that game is, it's going to sound weird to say, but playing that game prepared me for the collegiate level. You know what I mean? Like, so when I was at Kansas and we were facing the likes of Oklahoma and Texas Tech, it's hard to measure your effect on a team when you're assistant coach at this level, because there's so many different, elements that go into the equation for success, but playing in those type of games prepared me for games against Oklahoma and Texas, because when the stat sheet comes out, my group was probably the best group on the field for that day. The recruits I brought in are the best recruits that come in for that conference. And people will say, man, that's at Kansas. Yeah, running backs at Kansas produce better than, 90% of the rest of the conference. Coach Hall brought in 4 and 5-star guys. When you put him up against other recruiters in the conference, he was always in the top 5. But I developed that competitive edge playing in games like Warren Easton versus Carr.
I know it just works out that I have some of the recent history of that series because of that video I did with that young man that I mentioned, and it was a 40-14 game in 2015 was the last time that Easton got the win, and then you headed to college to, just like some of those seniors, to compete at the next level.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What has this experience at Hawaii been like from, you mentioned some of the recruiting, and I think it's been interesting to me historically just recruiting to Hawaii, because you guys are pretty far out there. You're 4 hours behind me because you're a part of an ocean away from the southwest part of the country. But then this year in particular, what has that been like in a COVID world? Has it affected you guys as much? Where y'all were probably more in tune with some of those virtual aspects out there than maybe some of the other programs in the mainland were to begin with. And I'm sure you would love to have had a chance to get over and see some more guys and them to come see you. But just in general, what has that been like to try and navigate this unusual 2020?
It's been tough, but for me, it has not been as tough as people may think. Here's why. There's different forms of recruiting, right? There's different forms of recruiting out there, and people can recruit differently. I, for one, recruit off of relationships. I build and nurture relationships. I don't only build and nurture relationships with the recruit. I build and nurture relationships with the parents, with the parents' parents, with the uncles, with the aunts, with the coaches, with the school administrators. Like I build relationships around that recruit to make myself a part of his world, part of his family. So in building those type of relationships, it doesn't matter where you're at. People come because they feel comfortable with you nurturing and taking care of their kid and that player. Um, Honestly, being in Hawaii has been easier because they know they're going to get that time, affection, and attention from Coach Hall, but then they're going to live in paradise when doing it. So it hasn't been as hard. People talk about virtual visits. Oh, virtual visits. I thought that was always a thing. Well, I was the only one really always doing it because I was at Kansas. So I would call kids, kids would call me FaceTime, or I'll call kids on FaceTime, and we'll walk around the campus. I would show them the locker room. I would do all these things before COVID even hit. So this was a part of my regular routine when it came to building relationships in general. People would be like, how did kid commit to Kansas and he's never been there before? Well, technically he has because we've got about 50 FaceTime calls where I was in the student union, or I was in a football complex, in the locker room, I was in the stadium, or I was at a KU basketball game and we watched 20 minutes of the game together because he wanted to watch the game on FaceTime. So it's been an adjustment, but not as much for me because it kind of already tailored to the way I already operate.
We just got through that early signing day with the last couple of years. We have the early signing period coming into play, and so just Wednesday was that first opportunity for the college football prospects to sign with their programs. And as I mentioned, you dealt with the season finale, the victory against UNLV. You deal with the early signing period. You're turning your attention to the bowl game as you guys get a chance to now add another game to this season that for a while we didn't think we would have potentially, and you guys have enough success to get that postseason opportunity. What is this next week going to be like with the guys to kind of prepare for another one and get to wrap it up in that sort of a scenario?
Well, it's been fun, man. We've just finals are ending up tomorrow, winding down tomorrow. We've just been having fun. We get extra practices in, so we get a chance to develop, get more development time. We get a chance to see some players that we probably would have not given an opportunity during the regular season to get practice and get some work in. The practices are not as long, so we get a chance to just hang out with them or give them some free time. This has been a great experience for me because, I'm all about nurturing and develop players and the people and coaches around me. So this allows us to develop and nurture our relationship without the rigors of trying to get ready for another game and move on to another game. Kind of give us a chance to take a step back, take a deep breath, and let's just continue to develop what we already have here. Maybe with the players, with the coaches. One of my GAs, he actually ran one of my meetings the other day, and I got a chance to develop him, saying, "Hey, do this a little better. Grab the player's attention by doing this." So being able to do little stuff like that during bowl week has been great for us.
Not to get too much ahead of things, but your name has been tied to an opening back in the home state, at least at ULM. And so that's kind of a lot of buzz around you right now back in Louisiana is you being someone that could you potentially be in the mix for that ULM job. And you are a guy that we talked about. You'd like to be a head coach in the Division I level at some point. What's kind of the story there? What potentially intrigues you about that? Is that a conversation you're having pretty soon after the season ends, or what's that look like for you?
Well, I would say this. You walk around the streets of Louisiana, New Orleans, Louisiana, and you see other coaches, whether it's high school coaches, junior college coaches, prep school coaches, and they look at you and they go, "Coach, man, thank you. Thank you for doing what you're doing. They're like, Coach, you inspire me, man. To see you do what you did at Warren Easton and to see what you're doing at Kansas when I was there, and now I'm at Hawaii. They're like, Coach, man, just keep pushing. You inspiring us, and that's all it's about. It's always been a lifelong goal of mine to be a Division I head coach. But I only want to do it by inspiring other people. And I truly believe whenever God blesses me with the opportunity at any other, that is that school or any other Division I, because here's the deal. I will be a head coach at a Division I level. And I will, just like when I worked for NASA and we got that space shuttle back to space, just like when I worked at Warren Easton and we got that program from nothing and built it into a dynasty. Just like when I went to Kansas and I had some of the greatest recruiting class, the greatest recruiting class the University of Kansas has ever seen. Whenever a school blesses me with the opportunity to be their head coach, they're going to see that exact same type of turnaround and even bigger because of the lessons I've learned from a guy who has trained the likes of Mike Norvell and Gus Malzahn, because I've worked for the greatest organization like NASA in the world. The lessons I have learned, I know without a shadow of a doubt, whatever institute hires me is going to see a tremendous turnaround.
No doubt, man. You're gonna get a chance to come back home. I mean, regardless of how things were to play out in terms of the off season at the college level, you're gonna get a chance to come back home at all for the holidays once y'all wrap up bowl season, or what's the off season plan look like right now?
So we play on the 24th, Christmas Eve. I plan on renting a car because I wanted to fly back to New Orleans, but the last flight leaving out of Dallas is at 6 p.m., so I'm not going to catch that flight. So I'm going to rent a car, and I am going to drive back to New Orleans, and I am going to be in New Orleans for hopefully about 7 to 10 days and get a chance to see, my family, my friends, and just enjoy Christmas and enjoy family and enjoy this time of giving.
Absolutely. It's unfortunate that the state championship games are up in Natchitoches this year, because if Easton could potentially get back on the right side of that car game again later tonight, by the time this video posts, you may have had a chance to go swing by and catch Easton in the Dome again and remind you of some of those old times.
Yeah, that those are some fun times, man. But it's gonna. Here's one thing I know. I know that us as people from Louisiana, just Americans, man, we persevere through anything. And this COVID deal is just, it thought it had us, but it's not going to get us. We're going to persevere, and as Americans, we're going to be back better than ever after this thing is over with.
You've probably hit on it some a little bit too, but I mean, in some of these conversations, I like to ask and kind of wrap up with any messages, whether it be a high school guy, any messages you would like to have a college coach that potentially sees this that they should know about you. For you, you mentioned the opportunity to kind of inspire some people, and we talked a lot about you getting into coaching years ago and just having some of these opportunities for one of those young coaches, whether they're just thinking about getting in or they're just getting started at the high school level, but they have big aspirations. What would be kind of a parting message that you would give them, some advice or encouragement or anything?
I would say perseverance and having grit is the greatest trait you can ever have. So whatever that goal is, whatever you want to do, because you take a look at me, man. You take a look at all the high schools around the entire country. We could shortchange the estimate by saying there's 700,000 coaches. To be able to take that jump from coaching high school to being a successful Power 5 assistant head coach, it didn't come easy. People see the stories and they see the success I've been having throughout that God has blessed me to have, and they think it's easy. Man, there's many tough nights, many trying days, many heartaches, many setbacks, many days where you just want to like throw your hands up and be like, man, forget it. There's something else I can be doing. But in order to be successful in anything you do, you got to have perseverance. You got to persevere through everything. And trust me, if you just keep pushing, keep going, Keep striving. When somebody says no, make them say no twice. When they say no twice, make them say no 3 times. When they say no 3 times, just keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing. And things are always going to work themselves out. That's just the way it is. The more you push, the more you persevere, the more success you're going to have in life. So when you want to just give up, man, just keep doing it. Keep going. It's going to
Shoot, I'm ready to go coach or play football or something now after that one. Tony, I appreciate you, man. It's good to catch up a little bit.
Same here, brother. I really appreciate us catching up, man. It's been a while.
Yeah. You've been out there blazing the trail, doing your thing and setting that example for some of those other young coaches you mentioned. Because I mean, it's absolutely no lie. Since you've been off and coaching at Kansas and now Hawaii, your name still pops up nonstop around New Orleans and just seeing kind of the success that you're having. And so, yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will be excited to see you back home for a couple of days.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I can't wait to see them.
Good deal. Again, he's Tony Hall, finishing up his first year at Hawaii as a co-offensive coordinator and working a lot with the inside wide receivers or the inside receivers for Louisiana versus all y'all, Jarrett Roser.